I want you to think about this simple phrase. You are living with a trauma survivor. Let that sink in a little bit. See, each and every single one of us, we carry experiences in our lives and we give every single one of them meaning, right? Sometimes we glorify what happened. Sometimes we victimize what happened. Sometimes we dumb it down. Whatever story that we tell ourselves at the time the trauma happens is what we carry forth. And oftentimes, we don't realize this, but it really starts to come up in relationships. And the way that I want you to think about it today is you have traumas, I have traumas, we have traumas. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make us less than, doesn't make us more than. It doesn't make you better than me. However, what's actually happening there? How is trauma showing up in your marriage, in your relationships, even with your kids, in your relationships with your parents, with your siblings? The one foundational thing that I've realized is amidst all of it, we are the center of our lives. Some people will say, hey, you're the CEO of your life. You're the captain of your ship. Whatever word you want to give it, totally fine. My job is just to remind you that trauma, have to kind of let go of it. Hey, for those of you who don't know, my name is Coach Umbrain. I am a marriage and family-driven coach, which means I show up every single day to serve you, to really build a home that's filled with harmony, love, peace, fun, joy, positivity, all the goodness that you desire. And just like every other relationship, we bring a lot of our lives into our homes. If you are a vice president, if you are a director of a company, if you have your own company, you'll start to see patterns of how trauma is actually even showing up in those relationships. The way that we treat our team members, how we think about specific situations, it all goes back to that one trigger. And so today, my intention is really to let you know the trauma is real. Your trauma is not my trauma. However, there is trauma. See, I've been in a very abusive relationship. So much so that I had to lose parts of myself. And when my kids would ask me simple questions, I didn't know the answer. So if they were to say, hey mom, what's your favorite food? I don't know, because I genuinely didn't know. Hey mom, when was the last time you got yourself a gift? I didn't know, because I genuinely did not give myself any gifts. Why? I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel like I deserved it, to be honest with you. And I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like when the people that are closest to us, the one that we are supposed to get the most love from, the most care from, the most attention from, are the ones that fall short. And we start to really think about these things as layers to developing a relationship that we feel like is just not strong. So take a moment right now. And what I want you to do is, I want you to identify one big trauma that you've had. And by big trauma, I mean something huge that happened, right? So for me, it was an accident at the age of 18. I got into a really bad accident where my grandfather was sitting next to me and his belt got so tight that he broke 4 of his ribs. This was in his early 80s. And he started to have internal bleeding. Our car was stuck. I hit a 4x4, a ginormous one, head on. And it completely transformed the way I looked at life. I felt like I wasn't deserving of living anymore because I was about to kill my grandfather. And the doctor said that we don't know how to get his bleeding to stop, and if it doesn't stop, we're afraid we're going to lose him. Could you imagine the amount of weight I was carrying? Similar to that, maybe you lost a loved one and you kind of saw them taking their last breath. Maybe it was losing a part of you, physically, emotionally, mentally, that became really traumatic. So go ahead and write that down. And if you're really courageous, share what that is with us. Because what this does is it inspires us to say that we own the life that we've had, and it's okay. Was it the best? No. But in this moment, we are embracing that happened. It had to happen for you to be here today, recognizing that trauma has been a big part of you, and it's kind of shaped a lot of your relationships. The second thing I want you to do right now is I want you to think of small traumas. Okay? Small traumas in a lot of families is financial challenges. Not being able to go on those trips you want to go on. Not being able to have enough money to splurge. Not being able to buy the things you want to buy for your wife, for your husband, for your kids, for your home, for your parents, for your loved ones. And maybe it's just something as simple as you were bullied. When you were younger, you were just bullied, and for you, it has stuck. And that kind of shapes the way you look at the world. Or maybe it's you tried to speak at a work event and you fumbled and you fell short. And so that traumatic experience is now a hesitation for you to go and speak with other people or to really put yourself out there at work. Or maybe something as simple as whenever you try talking to your spouse, they go into defense mode and they just shut everything down for you. Whatever's coming up, don't judge it. And something I'll always say to you, and I'm reminding myself all the time the same thing, don't judge yourself. Be kind to yourself. You see, when we are going through experience of trauma, or even traumas resurfacing, we start to feel so lonely. And loneliness will really take us down. We can have all the support systems built. However, when we feel like we are alone at life and there's no one on our team as a CEO, as a captain, then of course we're going to have so many more difficulties showing up at life. So go ahead, take a moment and really just write that down. And always remember, regardless of how big or small it was still trauma. And here, I'm going to really encourage all of you married couples. Just take a pause and recognize that your trauma is not his trauma, and her trauma is not your trauma. Both of you have had very different experiences in life to get to where you are. Are there similarities? I'm sure. Is it the same? Impossible. So when you can dial in and come from a place of knowing and accepting and embracing the fact that your husband, when he was young, he went through a very difficult sexual encounter. And I recently found the stat that 1 out of 8 men by the age of 18 are abused sexually. Maybe your husband is that one, and he's not going to talk to you about it. He's not going to mention it. That part of his life he never wants to visit. Why? Because it just feels so unsafe. So if a man is going through that, then a woman may be going something very different, where she's had an abusive father and she doesn't know how to trust anyone. She doesn't know how to express. She doesn't know how to give herself permission to feel safe. So a lot of times I see couples who come to me and the hidden themes are so much deeper than what the surface shows, right? Like it's something like, every time I want to shower her, pamper her, she'll just shut it down. She'll be like, no, I don't want to do that with you. I don't think it's a need. I think we can save that money and use it for X, Y, and Z. And he feels like neglected. He feels like he can't take care of his lady. Whereas she may feel that he's overexpressive. Like he always wants some touchy-feely, or he always wants to get some kind of validation through touch. And because she's been abused, she doesn't want anyone close to her vicinity because she knows what it's like to be physically abused. And she doesn't feel that she can put her guard down fully because she really does not know what safety looks like. And the coolest thing about coaching is you start to surface all these themes that show up, which you would have never thought were the reason why the marriage is where it is right now. And not every marriage is failing, not every marriage is bad, not every marriage needs help. Every marriage, though, can level up. Every husband can do a better job of giving his wife the emotional stability that she needs, and every wife can do a better job of supporting her husband by respecting him too. And then again, these are my interpretations. What the most beautiful part about this conversation is, it's just opening up doors. There's no one way that you have to be, one way that you have to think. Because life, like everything else, it ebbs and flows. And the more that you can understand that your partner, your companion, what I call, has trauma, the more likely you are to not take things so personally. This one single skill, and I really call it a skill, and I want you to really write it down, either in the comments or in the notes that you're taking right here, because when you recognize that it's really not about you, much of life isn't about us, yet somehow we make it all about us, right? Like the wife who doesn't want to champion her husband's dreams, or the husband who's like, there's no need for that. When we start to realize that taking things personally is only damaging not only our family, our marriage, our work, our home, but it's also damaging us, our essence. And when we start to go from this place of lack, we start to have a lot of negative chatter in our minds take over. So when you recognize that something is triggering you, and I know this word is like a very buzzword, when you feel like something is not sitting right in your heart, that's the way I will say it. Just pause. Take a moment and pause. Don't give it a lot of attention, just recognize that it's there, especially in the beginning. The more work that you do, the more of these videos that you watch, the more that you'll start to realize that that pause, it's honestly like a divine gift. Because that pause is there to make you recognize and realize that this specific thing needs a little bit of attention. And that's all we can do in that moment, right? When you hear your husband scream really loud at your kid, and you realize that, oh my God, that's my dad. Just pause. Don't go and save the situation. Don't go and overstep, because when you do that, you will tell your husband that he doesn't have rights to raise his children the way that he wants to, and that he has to follow your protocol and do things your way. Yes, I know, moms. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to me. I'm talking to all of us. I know. We feel like as mothers, somehow, we can discipline our kids, but we don't really give our husbands permission to do the same. And that becomes a very huge shortcoming in the marriage. It tells our husbands that we don't trust you and we don't respect you. What is a better approach to take? What is something that we can actually go into? Well, communication, they say, is key in any relationship. Yet, many of us have not been taught or trained or raised to know how to communicate in a marriage with our spouse. And there's no shortcoming on your part, not on my part. This is what life kind of told us and showed us. So when the trauma is really coming through, right, we give it some association. We give it some feeling. Just remind yourself that in this moment, you are safe. You are safe. You are no longer that person that you were, that you are here right now as a very different person. And then when you're able to kind of understand that, you won't have to relive it again. Or maybe you relive it a little less. And as you keep noticing these triggers, you start to live from that place a bit less every single time. And the greatest thing is that after that whole thing happens with your kid, or your husband kind of was really loud and, mean, really create a place where you have open communication. I brought in the fact that communication is the key, and we're not taught. We're also not taught how to openly communicate. And open communication looks like this. You take ownership of what you felt, and you share the trauma that unfolds for you. This gives your spouse that perspective that they need to realize that, oh, this for me wasn't a big deal, but for her it was a really big deal. Go something like this. Hey, sweetheart, when you were yelling at Joseph, my heart sunk and I just wanted to come and save him. Because I grew up in a home where abuse was common. And my mind told me that you were going to beat him the same way that I was beaten. And so, can we work on that a little bit, where you're not screaming so loud, not like holding and jolting? Because then I go back to that same place and I feel so unsafe in my own home. And what this does, it gives permission to your spouse, right, and to your partner to do the same. It's like they will start to see you in a different light. They will start to accept you for who you are. However, that requires a level of authenticity that you have to be willing to share. So take a moment right now and write down, when those difficult moments come, how will you communicate to your loved ones? Remember, the communication lens has to come from your point of view. There's no pointing fingers and blaming someone else. It's you internalizing what you need. What happens as you're doing this? When you start to write down, how do you actually want to communicate? How do you actually want this relationship to flourish and move forward? You start to have a little bit more respect for you. And your husband will start to respect himself a bit more too, because he feels that you are able to put down the guard and be safe around him. So when your husband, who wants to support you, feels like he's given you a space and a place to be yourself, he too will start to appreciate himself more, love himself more, build a skill of communication, start to understand his own traumas, his own feelings, and he will start to be more open. He'll even start to be more vocal and vulnerable around the challenges that he has gone through in his own life. Who knows? Maybe when you create a space where you can be vulnerable, one day he can meet you and say, yeah, I'm the statistic Coach Brain mentioned, 1 out of 8. This is what happened. However, it doesn't build overnight. When we look at trauma and we kind of keep reliving it, we don't give ourselves permission to let the past be where it needs to be, and we really bring every single person involved into a polluted mindset where those thoughts are not serving anybody and everything is like hidden. It takes a lot of courage, I know. So here I am asking you to seek validation from yourself, because you went through it, you conquered it, you are exactly where you need to be. To stop pleasing people, to accept and understand your own worth, and to start to create some healthy boundaries, so that way the loved ones around you notice and understand that you're not taking anything personal. You're just letting them know how they want to be loved more, how they want to be cared for more, how they want to actually increase their own self-worth. With that said, I am sending you a ton of umbergy, and a whole lot of goodness. Drop in the comments anything that resonated with you, anything that you're going to take back, or even those answers to those courageous questions that I asked you. Lots of love. Bye.